Madra, John, Madden, Juanito, in Acamal, Mexico. It's been a wild day after a rough night. Last night, me and one of my dogs and one of the neighbor dogs got locked in the apartment because this big door would not open. It finally turned out that the culprit was that the stopper, the thing you use to keep it from closing, had been installed on the outside instead of the inside, and it came loose and was keeping me from getting out. So it was just, and I didn't discover it until midnight, too late to get my landlord to come over and help with it. So it was a rough night. Didn't get a lot of sleep. And I've got a cold. And it's super hot, 90 degrees. And I had to go downtown and wanted to go downtown. And after a year and a half of really alone, most of my four and a half years on the road, I had a dog, but the last year and a half, no. So it was just me. And I've suffered from, even though I'm terminally happy, I'm still capable of experiencing pain, and the loneliness has been painful. Now I've got 3 dogs, 2.5. One of them still spends the nights over by his old house, but the other 2 are peacefully asleep in here right now. And in a country where sibling rivalry almost does not exist because kids have such a web of parent figures, aunts and uncles, grandparents, older kids who play happily play the role of substitute parents. Kids just get what they need, are given lots of space to be kids, are astonishingly happy. Whereas in the U.S., middle-class parents want their kids to achieve. In the Mexico, where the middle class is much smaller, the working class is much bigger, poor people much bigger. Parents want the kids to be happy. That's their focus. Want them to be happy, and they adore their kids. So it's 8:30, and I'm reflecting. I have a chance to reflect. I thought I would just fall into the bed, but instead I find myself thinking about things. And one of the things I'm thinking about is the working people of Mexico, who for years the Republican Party has been trying to convince U.S. people to think the Mexicans are lazy. Now, any contact they had with Mexicans in the U.S. would dispel that, because they're incredibly hard workers and the backbone of so many industries in the U.S. But when you get to Mexico, it's no different. The vast majority of men hop in the back of a pickup truck or a big farm truck, 8 or 10 or 12 of them, to get taken out to the fields or to construction projects or something like that. They're gone all day working. And people who don't have jobs, including the women, are hustling. If they've got a lot of young kids at home, not so much. But women tend to come around with their Tupperware containers full of tamales or other things they've baked. People are hustling, working hard, having fun at work in a way that certainly you would encounter in the U.S., but it's not the norm. And here's the norm, that at convenience stores, people are having a ball all day, even as they're doing a great job of serving the customers. And Latino shopkeepers in convenience stores and grocery stores, all the tiny little tiendas, are, in the U.S., the face of customer service at stores is high school kids who don't want to be there, who are checking their phones if they're allowed to have phones, or thinking about the evening and barely making eye contact. That's absolutely not the way it is in Mexico. It's people usually a little older or a lot older, often a whole family, staffing a restaurant or a store, and they're awesome. In South Texas, that was Rio Grande Valley, where it's 90% Latino. That was true, and in Mexico even more so. The only places I've run into that traditional American prejudice about lazy Mexicans has been in Latinos has been people who grew up in the U.S. Several people I've met who grew up in Houston and absorbed the hatred of Latinos, and we'll spit it right back out as if it was true, and it's so not true. Oh, any shop you go in, they're going to give you the minimum of service. No, it's not how it is. They've learned how to hate themselves. Taxis. Before I crossed into Mexico, I was warned, watch out for taxis. They will gouge you as much as they can. Not true. Not true. Even at the border, and border towns tend to be different because they are the place where drugs run across or immigrants run across and where there is cartel influence. But even their taxis, in my experience, were very honest. The Riviera Maya, where I am now, is different. Cancun and then the Riviera Maya, Playa del Carmen, Acamal, Tulum. There's been a whole scandal in Cancun about price gouging of taxis, especially from the airport. And it was in Cancun, because usually you can count on taxis, they're all within 5 cents of each other. They charge the exact same thing. And almost don't expect tips. Don't expect the kind of 15 or 20% tips or 30 that I give, because they're working hard and not making much money. But it was in Cancun that the taxi driver, when I said, how much is it going to be to go on this drive? He said, how much you got? Yeah. But not usually. Not usually at all. The working people of Mexico, and praise God, they are celebrated from the top. The AMLO government, Manuel Lopez Obrador, the last president, all for the working people, and in a very serious way, dramatically improved the social safety net. Poverty levels dropped in Mexico, and his successor, Claudia Sheinbaum, all the other parties banded together to beat her. All the parties who were for the rich, which was the tradition, centuries, generations of it in Mexico, the PRI. PRI was corrupt and for the rich. Claudia Sheinbaum, 80% mandate, and she is so popular and smart and committed to climate and not willing to be talked down to by Trump. She will not be intimidated by him at all. At all. So people love it's pretty different. Pretty different. The election was hard fought, and some animosity. And in the cartel area, see, everything's different in the cartel area. It's mostly on the West Coast and the border towns, and they operate in the Riviera Maya, but under the table. There's no shootings, no disappearances, but people protection rackets, yeah. When I explored opening a business in Playa del Carmen, they said, we got to factor in paying off the cartel. But everywhere else, no. Everywhere else, so safe, so safe. Is there more I want to say about all that? When I don't have anything floating up, it's a good sign that I gotta stop, for my sake and for yours. So, buenas noches. It's dark, you can say buenas noches. And it's really nice to say descanse, sweet dreams. Descanse.